My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and there's Rico, and here's my leg. Coming to you live from Manhattan on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Oh boy. Had a little accident last week, and so you didn't get to see me all week, and, well, Rico wants to make an appearance, but I don't know if I can lean down and grab him. I'll deal with that in a minute. Come here, buddy. So I figured I'd come up tonight and give a couple of things. We'll talk about a couple of things. I think I could do a show tomorrow, but Tuesday I have to have surgery, so I will not be able to do a show on Tuesday. So we're going to knock it out tonight and tomorrow. If I feel like it Tuesday night, I'll come up and say something. I just don't know what this surgery is going to bring me. So I can tell you, if it feels like it feels now, it's not going to be fun, but I'm pretty prepared for it. So that's the way life goes, folks. We got to roll with the punches. So tonight I just want to talk a little bit. I was gone all week, and as I'm going through the headlines, there's just a couple things that pop out at me. And let's get ready and talk about those things now. Let's do it. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. So if you see me a little antsy and I'm moving around a little bit, that's because this leg is it's in a weird position. So it takes me, I can't bend the leg. So here, let me explain to you. Everybody's wanting to know what happened. I'll explain to you what the injury was and how it happened. So I was getting ready to go to Newsmax on Monday, last Monday, and I was on my scooter, which everybody that knows me, I ride a small scooter. It's electric powered. It's called ET Wow is the brand. It goes about 20 miles an hour, and it gets me, in the city from one point to the next. It gets you there in 10 minutes. I'm used to being in the South, folks, where you leave 30 minutes late and you end up being 5 minutes early. In Manhattan, if you're dependent on cabs, you could leave an hour early and be 45 minutes late. So this scooter's been a godsend for me. I've driven over 800 miles on this thing in the city from place to place. And so here I had to go to Newsmax Monday to co-host with my good buddy Bill Tucker. Now, normally that's an hour-long show, but it was going to be a 2-hour show on Monday because of Thanksgiving week. So, go figure, a 2-hour show. That's challenging enough. Let's go ahead and throw this in the mix. So I'm going, and it was very interesting. Every time I tried to go my regular route, something was there. Something was in my way. I was going to get up. I never really ever ride on the sidewalk, but there was traffic. So I started to get up on the sidewalk, and some guy came at me on a bicycle. Was like, hey, look out. I almost hit this guy on a bicycle. So I veered back off into the road. I was like, well, that was close. So then I'm approaching an intersection that is a one-way road. It's Amsterdam, and I normally go over that road and then ride up the side of it because I only have to go a block to get to this other road. But there was traffic. So because the little 2 seconds it slowed me down when the guy on the bicycle came at me, I didn't make the light that I normally make. So I make a right up onto the sidewalk to let traffic go by, and then I was going to jump off the edge of the sidewalk and go across the road. Well, as I'm getting ready to go across that sidewalk or off into the road, some guy that had his car parked right there lurched his car forward at me. Now, I don't know if he was joking around, if he didn't see me. I don't know. All I saw was the car lurch forward, so I thought, I've got to turn so I don't get ran over. And, of course, I go into this. In New York City, they'll take part of the sidewalk out and plant a tree there. And then when the tree dies, they take the tree out. They don't refill that planter. So there's a big square hole and the scooter went right off in there. I wasn't really going that fast, but what happened was my foot slipped off the scooter, and I had cowboy boots on, and that's a sight to see, I know. And when my leg went into the ground, it sounded, I was twisting through the air. It sounded like you took a baseball bat and hit a tree with it. It just popped. So I roll over on the ground. I do a nice PLF for those people who were airborne qualified. That's a parachute landing fall, where I kind of landed on my side and rolled. I had my head like this and rolled, and then I'm laying there, and I can feel my leg just growing underneath me, and I couldn't move it. And so I'm like, I think I just broke my femur. So hold on a second. Come here, dog. Come here. He wants to be a part of this story so bad. So he doesn't. You didn't realize I can't move. Okay, so there you go. You're now a part of the story. There you go. Sit right there. So, so I'm laying there on the ground, and of course there's several people around me, and they're like, "Are you okay? Do we need to call an ambulance?" I guess they saw it looked pretty bad, and I was like, "I don't know, but hold on a second." I mean, it's like 10 seconds after I crashed. I take my phone out and said, "Hold on, I got to make a call." I called Newsmax. My buddy Mike, who is the producer of the show, is a former Marine. I was like, "Dude, I think I just broke my leg. I'm laying on the ground. I'll call you back. I don't know if I'm going to make it." He's like, "What?" I said, "I'll call you back." Hang up. And so very nice people there. I said, "No, don't call an ambulance. I think I just live around the block, that if I need to go home, I'll just jump in a cab and I'll limp over there, and it won't be a big deal." So they were like, "All right." So I said, "I just need to sit up for a minute." So I scooted up against the building. Meanwhile, some jackass above me is laughing at the whole thing. Thought it was funny. That's typical New York. So another guy comes by, a couple people, it was like 3 people, and they said, "Let us help you stand up." So they helped me stand up, and I just couldn't put any weight on that right leg. But for some reason, I don't know, I felt like I was on a mission, because I love Newsmax. They're good people. They always treat me well. And Mike, I'm dedicated to his vision of what he's doing there at Newsmax. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to make it to this interview. And then I'll know, by that point, I'll know if something really is going wrong with my leg or not. I don't know what I was thinking. So I somehow hop onto the scooter and hit the gas and start going. And I drove I think it's about 2 miles to get there. And I had to jump off the scooter twice because of red lights. Went through Times Square, got the Newsmax, came limping in, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Hey, we're going to do this show. I said I would do it, and we're going to do it." So I'm sitting there the whole time, and Bill Tucker's looking, every time we go to a commercial, he's looking down at my leg, and I have jeans on, and literally my leg was so swollen that you could see it getting bigger and bigger underneath my jeans. And Bill's like, "You got to go to the hospital, man. I was like, "I'm going to go to the hospital." So they get me a car. I come back home. I get in an ice bath to see if I get the swelling down, because I've injured my leg before, and I thought I just tore my quad. But the next morning when I got up, I was like, "No, this is bad," because I can move my leg this way. I can move it backwards, but I can't lift it, and so their leg can't do this at all. And that's because the tendon that all the muscles in your quad connect to, so they come down, they connect to this tendon that goes up underneath your kneecap and then connects there and gets solidified under there, so that your muscles have something to pull against, and that's what bends your leg and holds it where you can hold it outright like this. Well, I completely snapped that right off the kneecap, so or underneath the kneecap. So what they're going to have to do on Tuesday is they're going to have to go in and drill a hole in my kneecap, cut my knee open, drill a hole in my kneecap, and then reattach that tendon to the back of my knee. So that ought to be fun. And then 6 weeks in a splint and 3 months of 3 to 4 months of physical therapy. Right when I'm going to be doing possibly a book tour. So this ought to be very interesting, very fun. And can I put you down now? You're like holding a hot water bottle. Hold on. Say bye. All right, there you go. Good boy. All right, so he's been very attached to me since I've been laid up. He definitely could tell that something was wrong. So anyway, here I am. And all week long, I had a couple interviews here. I hosted Sean Hannity's radio show on Wednesday, I believe it was. and did NRA television on Tuesday from here. And so I've been dragging, it's like dragging around 1,000-pound piece of metal all over the place. This leg is ridiculous. So anyway, I get this, I get here, and I'm like, you know what? Yesterday I was like, I'm going to go ahead and do a show. I hadn't been there all week. Everybody's been asking questions. So I start, I've been following the news all week. And first of all, I just want to show everybody. So I got the first printed editions of, yes, it's actually a real book. You guys are actually getting real books. The first printed edition of Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. So now I can, if I want to reference something in there, I can literally reference things that I wrote in there. So that's good. Now, these are going to ship December 12th. I got, the first few that came out. We take these and then we send these to the different media outlets and stuff so that they can go through it and can cover this. Hopefully they'll cover it. So that's it for me. Look, I'll have this surgery and I'll push on, and it's just going to be another thing. I mean, look, winters are always bad for me anyway because I get, like, what's that called where, there's no sunlight in New York City, so I get that depression. That ain't happening this year. I got stuff I have to do now. So if it wasn't going to be hard enough with this book, it's going to be doubly now with this leg. So God wants me to stay busy, and that's what I'm going to do. So one other thing I want to tell you before we get to the stories. I told this story on Sean Hannity's radio show. By the way, I posted the link on Facebook and Twitter and also on LinkedIn. If you didn't get a chance to hear last Wednesday's show, there's a link on my social media where you can listen to the podcast, which is actually a show. And I interviewed Elizabeth Smart, which, if you don't know who Elizabeth Smart is, she was in 2002, I believe it was abducted by, it was either 2002 or 2002, I believe. She was abducted by a crazed psychopath for 9 months when she was 14, and she finally got rescued. So it's an incredible interview. I highly recommend you go listen to it. The whole show, I'm talking about this book, Sheep No More, and so you can get a little bit of a better idea of what it's all about. There you go. Look at that. How about that? Boom. There you go. So, but I told the story about my uncle, Freddie. I had mentioned it here before. They cleared me and said, yeah, I could talk about it. So here's basically what happened, and this is an incredible story. And I want to share it at the beginning of the show because a lot of times at the end of the show we've lost some viewers and stuff. So my uncle Freddie, I don't want to get this other the hero of the story. I don't want to get his name wrong. So let me make sure that I'm going to say his name correctly. So my uncle Freddie, and hold on a second here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. My uncle Freddie is a preacher, and the guy has been instrumental in helping me become a man and giving me the example as a young person and as an adult on how you should be as a man. I remember as a young boy, 9 years old, my mom took me to go live with my cousins. Oh man. Whew, that was an experience for 3 months in the Ozarks. Well, I grew up in the Ozarks, but this is over in the Missouri border, and they owned a dairy farm. So 5:30 every morning, 5:30 every evening, those cows had to be milked, and that was quite an experience for me. But I watched Freddie one time plow a field from sunup to sundown for one of his the members of his church because they were sick. He didn't get paid for it. He just went and did it for him. Now that's the example that I had from Freddie. So Freddie and his wife Joanne, they're raising their great grandson Lucas, and Freddie, again, growing up around Freddie, he's going to teach you things and expect you to be a man, even at 11 years old, which Lucas is right now, or when I was 9. He gives you a task. He's going to teach you how to do it and expects you to do it. So he bought Lucas a small chainsaw so that Lucas could learn how to use the chainsaw, and that's what they were doing. They were out cutting down a tree, and Freddie was cutting down a tree with this huge giant chainsaw that he has. And anyway, the tree, instead of falling over, sometimes the tree slips off. The tree slipped off, landed on Freddie's leg. Freddie's 75, I believe now, somewhere between 73 and 75. the tree landed on his leg, crushed his leg, and so he's laying there. I'm pretty sure he probably would have been dead if it hadn't been for Lucas, who put his little chainsaw down, picked up the big mighty chainsaw, and cut the tree off of Freddie. He then, once they got, they couldn't med flight him out, so they had, because of fog, so they had to call an ambulance. And you know, where they live, they're 50 miles from the nearest hospital. So at that point, Lucas cleared the road with the chainsaw of all the debris so that the ambulance could get down there and pick Freddie up. Freddie subsequently lost his leg, but has recovered nicely. I believe he's home now, and Lucas is a hero. So, as you can tell, I get a little emotional telling the story because whew, that's a hero. That's a hero. We use that term hero a lot in this day and age. I've even heard some congressmen and senators called heroes. I cannot envision one in Senate or Congress. I mean, they've done heroic things. Many people have been through the military and done heroic things. That is a house full of whores, as far as I'm concerned. And but we use it, we describe a lot of people just because they serve. We describe them as heroes. This kid is a hero, 11 years old, remaining calm, cutting the tree off of my uncle, and then clearing the road so the ambulance can get there. And it just made me think, and I think it's a good pivot point for the rest of this show that I'm going to talk about. We put ourselves out there, you know, accidents happen, like I fell in this hole, or the tree fell on my Uncle Freddie. Accidents happen all the time. People have to rise to the occasion all the time. These things happen. But what is interesting about this story about my uncle and my Lucas, I don't even want to try to figure out where he's at in there as far as my great nephew or whatever he is, or cousin. But he, you know, Freddie is not a dependent person. He's not dependent on anybody. He's very independent. And he's taught this young man to be independent. And so when it came time to step up and do what he had to do, he did it. He didn't crumble. He didn't crush. I'm not comparing myself in any way to Lucas, but I was raised by Freddie and my mom, and I wasn't raised by Freddie, but influenced by Freddie as I was growing up, and all my other relatives, all my aunts and uncles and my cousins and my mom and my dad and my grandparents and all these people up in the Ozarks. And I was influenced not to be dependent, but to be independent. And so I hate even putting these two things in the same story, but when I had my scooter accident and then I got up, you know, I felt a sense of independence, of dedication. I said I was going to be there to do that show, and it was my fault for, you know, scooting on over there 30, 40 minutes before the show. I was going to be there early this time, which was great, but I took a risk every time I did that, you know, rolling in there, whether it's 5 minutes early or 30 minutes early. You get on that scooter and you're heading to an important meeting or to host a show, you're taking a risk. And I took that risk. And so I felt it was necessary for me to continue and do what I had dedicated myself to telling Michael that I would do that. So very similar in the way that I was raised under the same mindset as Lucas, but what Lucas did was profoundly more heroic than me getting up and getting on my scooter. But you see that when you are taught to be independent and empowered, you will rise to the occasion. You'll rise to the occasion when you get hurt. You'll rise to the occasion when somebody else gets hurt. You'll rise to the occasion when there's something that needs to get done when it comes to supporting yourself or your family. And that's what Lucas did. So I want to transition into the A block, and I want to talk about the gentleman, Stephen, I hope I'm getting his name right, Stephen Williford. He's the man, the hero that shot the shooter at the church in Texas there earlier this month. And this is an interview with him. First, I'm going to show you on scene when he's getting interviewed by police right after they determined that the guy was dead, the shooter was dead. Let me pull that up real quick and put this over here so you can hear this. And it's a very, very intense few seconds here when he's trying to describe. You can see he's shaking up. All right, let's pull this over. So I'm going to pull this up, and let's go to the A block, and we'll start this. So the car at this point, I believe, is right down over here. Now, I'm going to try to not criticize law enforcement here, but somebody needs to start teaching law enforcement how to do a blocking maneuver. This is not it. You don't pull everybody up when there's an active shooter into one funnel, which is what they do. I don't know who's doing this training. There's another one. Let's just pack a couple more cop cars in there.
How old are you, Steve? 55.
So this is him.
What's your home address? Okay. Okay. So you think you may have shot him?
I can't think of any other reason why he took that sign out and ended up in that ditch.
Okay.
I know I put some well-placed shots. I got an EOTech on an AR, and I think they were well-placed shots.
Okay. And that took place in Sutherland Springs area, or?
That's my house,
okay,
right across from the church. I was home when I heard the shots, and I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
So I had to, God, I had to get into my safe.
Okay.
But you had to get into his safe.
Speed when
yes.
He was coming,
yes, and then he started slowing down this way.
Okay.
He stopped for. This man was on the corner.
Okay.
And I chased him, and this man, he was on the corner,
right,
with his truck, and I don't even know you, man. And I said, thank you so much. I said, that's the guy. Jumped in the truck with him, and right, we gave chase.
What is your last name?
Langendorf.
What is your first name?
Johnny.
What's your date of birth?
10/6/90.
Okay, where do you live at?
I live at.
Okay, where, in what city are you out of? Okay, just sit tight, okay?
Yes,
you don't
sir.
mind if you can help him, if he can use your
Please.
phone to call his wife.
Let me call my wife and my family.
All right, that's the first one. Now I want you to hear the intense interview of this.
I saw him.
It's off of CNN.com.
And I was standing behind a pickup truck for cover, and we exchanged. I'm like, it was surreal to me. It couldn't be happening. I could not believe it. And we exchanged gunfire, and I know I hit him. I don't know where I hit him. But I know I hit him. And he got into his vehicle, and he fired another couple of rounds through his side window. And I fired, when the window dropped, I fired another round at him again. And one as he was pulling away, and he turned down 539, Farm to Market Road 539, and sped away. And I noticed that there was a four-wheel drive Dodge truck, another truck, sitting at the stop sign. And a guy had watched this whole thing take place. I ran over to his truck, and I said, that guy just shot up the Baptist church. We need to stop him. He opened his door, and I got in, and we pursued, and he had quite a lead on us. And we chased him down 539, and when we first started chasing him, he was out of sight, and the man driving the truck was I found out later, his name is Johnny. He was driving at a high rate of speed, and we were trying to pass cars and catch up, and we were called 911, and we were talking to 911 at that point. We did not see, at that point, any officers anywhere. And they were probably headed to the church at that point. But dispatch, we started talking to, they said, where on 539 is he? And we gave a description when we caught view of him again. And again, we were coming up on him pretty quickly, and when we got up closer, he pulled over to the side, like he was going to pull off to the side of the road. And he slowed down, and I thought he was going to stop. And I reached down to open the door, still with my rifle in hand. And he sped up. He hit a road sign. It flipped over the truck, or his SUV. He ran across, back up on the road, about another 100 yards down, and down into the bar ditch. And Johnny stopped the truck on the road. And I told him, I said, get down, get down. He got down in the truck, and I stepped out of the door, and I put my rifle across the hood of the truck, and was yelling, get out of the truck, get out of the truck, get out of the truck. And I never saw any movement or anything from it, but I wasn't going to let him go anywhere. And finally, the police department got there. And they told him to come out with his hands up, and no response. And at that point, I had actually laid the rifle down and started back, and he said, not you. So I picked the rifle back up. Okay, that's fine if you need, and so I hung out there and waited till I saw about 6 more police officers show up, and they did rather quickly after the first one. And I started to walk back, and he said, no, stay there, stay there, stay there. And I stayed where I was, and they drove one of the squad cars up.
That's intense, folks. That is intense. So, why did I choose this after all this time of this show? I wasn't on all week, and then this happened earlier in the month. Well, I was just thinking about little Lucas and what he did so heroically, and I just happened to stumble on this before the show started about you didn't see an ounce of dependency in that individual. Okay, you saw somebody who evaluated the situation. You cannot do that when you're a dependent individual. It's going to be very difficult. You saw somebody who knew what they had to do when it needed to be done. His biggest problem was that he had to get to his gun safe to get that weapon out, which there again shows you that he's that he's a responsible gun owner. So he gets the gun out. He puts a well-placed shots in the individual, and then they make chase where he holds the guy, and he holds him with his weapon, yelling at him to get out of the vehicle, but he wasn't going to let him leave. This is where I differentiate a little bit. I would have put what's called some security rounds in that guy's door and made sure that he was dead at that point. But that's my training and background. I wouldn't have waited for him to get out of that vehicle. Take that as you may. That's a little bit of experience there. If you ever get in a situation like this, I know listen, I can't criticize him at all. He did a magnificent, spectacular, 100% exactly what he should do. I'm just saying that if he ever gets to that point and you're drawn down on somebody and they just shot a church up and you're sure you shot them, and you know that they had a gun when they got in the car, you might as well go ahead and make sure that target is eliminated at that point. So, but he did an outstanding job. Not 1 ounce of dependency in that man. What he did was absolutely right. What he did was not at all out of control. He was completely in control of what he was doing. And you can tell by his demeanor that he had training with that weapon. He knew the equipment that he had on that weapon, what it was for. He used it for what it was for. And there was not one thing in there that this individual did, Stephen, I forget what his last name is, that Stephen did with his weapon that the Second Amendment did not give him the power to do. Now, in contrast to that, the guy who shot up the school, the Second Amendment does not cover that. And I can guarantee you, if this individual, if the Air Force had done their job, which I hope somebody is swinging for that one, and he was not able to get a gun legally, he would have gotten a gun anyway. Can almost guarantee that. Somehow, some way, he would have gotten a gun. Or he would have went in that church and stabbed everybody to death or ran them over. The guy was hell-bent on killing. He would have killed. So after thinking about Lucas, which I was going to talk about anyway, and then seeing Stephen here and how he reacted, and the John, the guy that was the driver of the truck, how they acted together, unified. They didn't know each other, but they knew that was an enemy, and they had to eliminate that threat. That is exactly what I always talk about on this show. You know, you may not know each other, but if you have the same mindset, when it comes time to act, you're going to act. You're not going to react. It's going to be an action. And you can see by these individuals when you hear them being interviewed that they acted. So that comes from a sense of independence, a sense of self-worth, a sense of empowerment, which comes from your community. It comes from your school sometimes if you have a great teacher, which in Texas may be the case, but up in North it's not typically going to be the case. There's a lot of great teachers up here, but I would say 90% of them, if not more, are staunch liberals who would never know how to act in that situation. And if a shooter comes in their school, they're going to have no idea. It's going to be a guessing game the entire time. So these individuals were not like that. They were empowered. They had an idea. It came from their community. It came from the state of Texas. People are like that, even though Texas, you're allowing your government to become communist, basically. But your people are empowered. And then at home, like my father died when I was very young. My mom empowered me. My uncles and cousins and aunts, they all empowered me and made me into a strong person who thinks his way through these things. The place where I grew up in Yeovil empowered me. Same thing with Lucas. Of freedom. Not worried about, your kids playing out in the backyard or going out in the woods or doing stuff because they were held responsible for their actions, unlike a lot of the times now. And so kids don't have a plan. They're not growing up with that, and nor are the adults. So after being on NRA TV the other day, I've never been a member of NRA. I just have not. And one of the reasons why was because I'm in the military and I was in law enforcement. I really didn't think too much about it, to tell you the truth. But when I got into media, I wanted to stay separate from that lobby because I wanted to speak about gun rights without having to be milked in with the NRA. But having seen and researched a little bit recently about what all the NRA does, and I know what they do. I've known what they do. I think now the Second Amendment is under such an assault as many other things are in this country that I think we need to have a push for people joining the NRA. And I think the other thing that we need to do, which we don't talk about in this show and most people just don't talk about in this country, is that everybody needs to go get their concealed weapons carry permit, whether you ever carry or not. You need to go get it. And once you get it, if you can save up the money to get yourself a weapon, get yourself a weapon and then train with that weapon. Doesn't mean that you're going to be going to a range buying bullets all the time. It means unloading the weapon, making sure there's no round in the chamber, and then putting that weapon, however you're going to carry it, whether it be in your purse or whether it be in your in a holster, and then you practice drawing that weapon. You practice dry firing that weapon. You practice clearing your house. You practice spontaneously pulling that thing out at crazy times. Just now, I'm going to pull it out. And get used to that feeling. We do a lot, and a lot of range work is emphasized. And yes, it's true. You need to be able to hit the target that you're shooting at. But even some of the most highly trained people that are extreme marksmen on the range will not act properly if they've never practiced drawing their weapon or being in a stressful environment when they draw their weapon. So These are different things that you can do. But here's what I want everybody to do. Tonight, go join the NRA. By Friday, I want you to join the NRA. And I want you, if you can afford it, which in New York City, it's $400 to even apply for your concealed weapons carry permit, and you're probably not going to get it, to tell you the truth. But if you can get it, get it. Go apply and get your concealed weapons carry permit. We need to send a message by having the number of these concealed weapon carry permits. Listen, there's 60 million people that voted for President Trump last year, over 60 million. There needs to be 60 million people with a concealed weapons carry permit, or at least who have applied for it in this country. And it needs to happen now. And that's the type of voice, that's the type of unity that we can have. Now, the NRA has millions of members, but they need 60 million members. I am not paid by the NRA. I'm not associated with the NRA. I'm still not a member of the NRA. But I'm going to join the NRA this week, probably after Tuesday when I get my operation. I'm sitting in bed. I'm going to join the NRA. And I just think it's very important for everybody, whether you've ever thought about it or not. You could be liberal or conservative. It doesn't really matter. You need to stand up for your rights so that you can be independent and not dependent, and you can see how they reacted in this situation, why it's important. And also, yes, somebody's saying here, the United States Concealed Carry Association is another one that you can join as well. I joined both of them. I don't know I don't think it's going to break your bank to join these. So, don't be dependent. Doesn't mean you have to be rich. I mean, just don't be a dependent person. Sometimes you're going to have to be dependent on certain things. My goodness, how many times have I come on here and asked you all for donations to the GoFundMe page, which continue to do that, continue to fund this show. And as you can see, even when I'm injured, I'm still going to come on here. But you need to, sometimes you have to ask for help on certain things. I need help funding this show. You may have, some of you that watch the show may be on welfare. That's all right. My mom was on welfare. We were on welfare when I was a kid. She used it to get herself off of welfare, basically, and which she did, raising 4 kids by herself. So it's okay to be dependent, but don't be a dependent person. Sometimes you have to depend, but don't be an independent person, even when you're in that situation. Now, I want to go to, now that we're through talking about heroes, I want to jump over and I want to talk about dirtbags in Congress and the Senate, and then we'll close this out. And then I'm going to go prop this leg up because it's starting to swell. I can feel it. So let's go to the B block, and then we're going to talk about Congress, Senate, and sex scandals. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. So John Conyers, who is another loudmouth that we've always seen in the Congress, this guy, if you're not familiar with who he is, see if you can see him. He may look familiar to you because he's always got something stupid to say. So he is, and I'm not just saying that because he's a Democrat. I'm saying that he is, he's just another one of these loudmouths. He is, I think at this point, the longest standing congressman, I believe. He's 88 years old. 88 years old. And head of the Judicial Committee. And says, BuzzFeed, it's funny because all these liberal news feeds are the ones that are crushing the Democrats, that he paid a woman more than $27,000 under a confidentiality agreement. Oh, by the way, you and I paid that $27,000, right? That came out of that slush fund that they used to, the taxpayer money to pay off these sexual assault claims. So $27,000 under the confidentiality agreement to settle a complaint in 2015 that she was fired from his Washington staff because she rejected his sexual advances. Ugh. So that means when he was at the ripe old age of 86, he was making sexual advances at one of his staffers. And she was subsequently fired or quit. Wait, was she fired? She was fired. So the ethics committee, made up of other dirtbags from Congress, they announced they've begun an investigation on this. Oh, and the Senate ethics committee is also investigating Al Franken, who says he will not step down, but he is ashamed of what he's done. Now, Nancy Pelosi came out and called this guy an icon, right? That's basically all she had to say about it. Yet, Judge Roy Moore, which I have not talked about at all, because I've waited and waited and waited for evidence to come out to validate or either validate Judge Roy Moore or validate the women making the accusations. Nothing has come out from any of these people. And I got to tell you, one thing that's bothering me, I just do not, I have a problem. If somebody's going to wait 40 years to come out, I don't have a problem with that. If somebody's going to come out 40 years later and say this happened 40 years ago and this guy did it and I'm standing up to him, then what I would expect for you to do if it was me, if that was me that was sexually assaulted 40 years ago and I finally stood up and said, that man did this to me, you are going to see a relentless barrage from me. It would every single day you would see my face. I would put that yearbook out there. I would tell the lawyer, we're going to go full force on this thing. My quest is to destroy this man. Why aren't we seeing that? Why aren't we seeing that? I don't know, and I can't question her motive or the other women's motive, but I can tell you this. I can look at, regardless of Roy Moore and these women, what I can look at is the behavior and the responses of these individuals that are congressmen and senators and how they respond to their own versus how they respond to somebody who's on the opposition side from them. The fact that Al Franken did what he did is sexual assault. When you grab a woman who doesn't want to be grabbed and you stick your tongue in her mouth when that's not what she wants, that is not even inappropriate behavior. That is sexual assault. And I guarantee you, folks, if you were in college and you did that to somebody in college, you're going to go to jail. Now, when it comes to this old guy here, 88-year-old, what's his first name? John Conyers, dirtbag. He is, let's see, where's he from? Michigan, paying $27,000 under confidentiality agreement to settle a complaint in 2015. Man, why she settled for $27,000? That's stupid on her part. But she signed a confidentiality agreement and was fired because he was making sexual advances on her. And Nancy Pelosi comes out and says he's an icon, not saying this is bad. The fact that he paid her hush money is bad, and he should resign. That's not what they're saying. They'll call for Judge Roy Moore to resign. And listen, again, I want everybody to know, I'm not a supporter of Judge Roy Moore. I'm not a supporter of the women who are accusing Judge Roy Moore. What I am saying, any woman that is assaulted, I'm 100% behind her like a steamroller, ready to help her and squash anybody who wants to come against her. I'm there. But in the case of Judge Roy Moore, if we just don't look at them and we only look at the behavior of the congressmen and the senators on both sides of the aisle, it's repulsive. And they are a bunch of, and I don't usually use this word, right? But they are scum bags. It's dirty. They are nefarious. I know I use that word a lot. Disgusting people. And when they call this guy an icon, but they say Judge Roy Moore must resign, but they say Al Franken, we're going to do an investigation, but it doesn't, I don't think he should resign. He's just a comedian and he went too far. Bull crap. That is the exact double standard that has gotten this country in a position which it is now. So all the more reason for you to go join the NRA, get your concealed weapons carry permit, and start showing everybody that you're not going to be dependent, that you are independent. And I'm telling you, folks, we got a fight on our hands, whether we want it or not. People like this, we need to take full advantage of this. We need to start hiring people like Scott Ulinger in Pennsylvania's 15th district, and put him into office up there in Washington, D.C. as a congressman. We need to start looking at Dr. Shiva up in Massachusetts, who's running against who's the lady who said she was an Indian when she wasn't? Why am I forgetting her name right now? Help me out here, brain room. The one that was calling for the recount. Why am I forgetting her name? The recount after the presidential election. All right, brain room, come on now. I'm looking at the different chat sessions. Yeah, Elizabeth Warren. Thank you, Donna Nova. So he's running against Donna Nova. It's Dr. Shiva. You can look him up. And he's the guy that invented email, believe it or not. He's an MIT grad. A great guy. Has so much to say about Harvard. I'm going to have him on this show. You need to go out and join the NRA. Go get your concealed weapons carry permit. This week, go apply for it. And then start looking for people like Scott Ulinger, that like Dr. Shiva, like myself, who have real world experience, and start, maybe you're that person. And let's figure out a way to get these people pushed forward and get them in there. No, it was not Pocahontas, Maureen. So, okay, so I know that there's going to be these people that are going to come out and say at 14 years of age, like so-and-so is here down here on Twitter. Again, you're not listening to what I'm saying, okay? There's no proof coming out one way or the other. I've been hounding Judge Roy Moore because of his answers when he was interviewed by Sean Hannity. I thought his answers made him look more guilty than they did innocent. But at the same time, these women come out. It happens every election with somebody who's in a big position. They come out with the Democratic Party. Almost every time it's a Democratic Party, they come out, they go with Gloria Allred, and their accusations dwindle and amount to nothing. And quite frankly, all the women that I know that are empowered, 40 years, this woman's not 14 anymore now, okay? She's now 54 years old. She should be in front of that camera blasting this guy every day, regardless of Gloria Allred. They should be providing this yearbook that had stuff written in it. They should be going full force. If they want to do it and they're going to do it, then do it. But regardless of that, my thing here isn't, I have nothing to say tonight about, ultimately, I know I said something, but I'm not even worried or concerning myself with what she says or what he says. I'm talking about the behavior of congressmen and congresswomen, senators and representatives, and how they act when somebody like Al Franken physically assaults a woman, or Congressman John Conyers pays a woman who got fired because he made sexual advances towards her, and all they have to say is, oh, he's a comedian, or this guy's an icon. We have proof in this case that they did something. If there was absolute proof that Judge Roy Moore did something, I would say get rid of that guy faster and don't ever let him come back. He's a person that would do that and then claim Jesus is the worst of the worst, but we don't know that. We don't know that now, do we? Because the defense, the woman's defense, is not strong. It's not coming out strong. They're not producing enough evidence. They won't produce that yearbook. At the same time, Roy Moore is pushing forward. So, but regardless, put that to the side. These people in Congress and in the Senate have done something wrong, and nobody's saying anything about it except for he's a comedian or this guy's an icon. Saturday Night Live, people from Saturday Night Live, it's very disturbing how Saturday Night Live has become. I used to think it was very funny. It has always been political, but it's disturbing now. Lorne Michaels should be ashamed of himself. I've ran into that guy several times. I wish I could run into him one more time so I could tell him, you should be ashamed of yourself. So should all the people, especially the women on Saturday Night Live, saying that there's nothing wrong or they're backing Al Franken. I can guarantee you, if I walked up there tomorrow to one of these ladies, I said, hey, I'm a comedian. You're on Saturday Night Live, right? And they're like, yeah. And I said, grabbed them all of a sudden and shoved my tongue down their throat. Guess what's going to happen to me? I'm going to go to jail. Even though I say, hey, I'm a comedian. I was just being funny. It's called breaking the law. It's called sexual assault. So when we look at the response of these people and how they respond to it, I haven't seen anybody backing Judge Moore because they think he's guilty, but they're still going to back him. I haven't seen that. I have seen people all say, I'm giving Judge Roy Moore my backing until they show me proof, and nobody's shown them proof. So I don't know who's I'm not even paying attention to the Twitter tonight. Bunch of weirdos over there, and lovely people as well. So I think that's about all I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to try to do a show tomorrow night. It's going to be a short one because I got to get in the bed because I got to be up early to get my operation on Tuesday. So I may just pop on, depending on the headlines, do a couple things, and then get off. Anybody else got anything? So let's see here. Looks like we had a good troll over here. Maureen, who's the troll over here? Because I don't know who it is. I can't see. I have to put on my reading glasses to see. It's so small. You're going to like this. I got a busted up leg and reading glasses. Happy as can be. All right. We'll go ahead. Listen, as I always say, Pickle Rick, whoever this guy is thinks he's like Rick on Rick and Morty. I guarantee you're not half as smart as that guy. Oh, my Lord. All right. Don't give these people any attention. And I love everybody over here on Facebook. Always nice and calm. All right. Enough of these. Although I do need glasses. What do you think? Should I get glasses? All right. I'll be just like on MSNBC where everybody's got glasses. Make sure you share this show tonight so other people can see it. If you're on Facebook, share it. If you're on Twitter, retweet it. And if you're on YouTube, I don't know what we do because nobody really ever watched on YouTube. Let's see how many people we got. 24. I think it's the same 24 people come here every night. God bless every single one of you. So that's it. That's all I'm going to do for tonight. And let's go to the Truth Zone. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say before I go. If you can donate to the GoFundMe, go donate, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. If you haven't ordered the book, right now is a great time to do it. It's $10, a little over. It's like $10.40 something, I believe. After we did the Hannity radio show the other day, it rose up in the top 100 of the bestseller list again on Amazon. Remember, it debuted at number 11. I think it went to number 5 at some point, but it's not even out yet. So that tells you how bad people want to know this stuff. And I'll show you a little part of this here. I'll show you a little part tomorrow as well, is basically what I do. And as you can see, I came up with an equation. Not that I'm any math guru, trust me on that. But I came up with this equation here. And that's the targeting equation. And it basically tells you how to build a target package. And I go through and show you how to put this equation together and literally break your life down into where it looks like this. This is going to be the end product of what this book teaches you. Is it will teach you, like in the sector of home, the most critical areas, the most obvious attackers' avenues of approach, and then the sum of the sector of home's target equation, the type of attack, the time of attack, and the vulnerabilities. So you can see just in the example that I gave in the book, there's all these different types of attacks that could happen in and around your home. And I show you how you can figure that out, not just at your home, but in every sector of your life. And you can break your life up into multiple sectors, which we see here. I just chose a couple of sectors. So that the book talks about killing, about why people kill, the different types of killings. It talks about what an attack actually is. And then it gives you this how you build the attack package and how attackers do that, so you can understand how they look at you. And then we talk about the defender's mindset. That's what. See, if you look at the cover of the book, you got the attacker and you got the defender, and that's why the book looks like this. And the technique is attack and defend. So Sheep No More: The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Go order it right now on Amazon. You can get it for, I think it's $10 and something, regular $15. And they're going to be shipped on December 12th. Again, if you want an autographed copy, you can either wait till I come to where you're at, or you can go donate $50, and we're going to have to get your address from you eventually, and we're going to sign them and then ship them out that way. So either way, you're going to want it. You're going to want your family members to have it. And trust me, I'm not just saying this because it's my book. It's the real deal. I'm giving you all the knowledge that I've gained from being a SEAL, an air marshal, security contractor, doing all these threat assessments, and in the FBI. I'm giving you the tools, and I've simplified it so that it's very simple. If you're in a church, you read this, you're going to understand where your defenses need to be, because you're going to think like an attacker and look at your church like an attacker. If you're a teacher, same thing. If you work in a tall building, same thing. If you are going to see a concert, you're going to understand it from an attacker's point of view much better. That's what this is all about. So, yeah, Pickle Rick, you're going to want one too, because obviously you probably get beat up all the time. This would be a good way for you to understand why and where you're going to get beat up and when, idiot. So, if these trolls just realize they don't bother me, you don't bother me. Let's see here. Hold on a second here. Lion Wolf. I hope you weren't talking to me on that one. Probably, I've never met Marcinko, so I couldn't imagine I'd be doing anything with Marcinko. All right. Let me go ahead and end this. So I can stop giving the trolls a fun Sunday night. Probably a bunch of atheists anyway. So go donate to the GoFundMe page. Pickle Rick, definitely go give your money. It'll be well worth your while. And then go choke yourself, you idiot. And then go buy the book, Sheep No More: The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Pray for me that I have a good surgery on Tuesday. I should see you tomorrow night, so we'll talk more about that. And I'm not going to show you. I took a nice picture of my leg, but I'm not going to show you. I think it'd be too much for certain people. But trust me, it looks bad. It looks real bad. All right, I love you guys. Let's go to the Truth Zone. Stand by. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More: The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it. All right. I dedicate this Truth Zone to all the trolls out there. Take a sip of coffee, because you do know that whenever Jonathan Gilliam is in, the truth has arrived. I'm still going to get some of these made eventually. I got a lot going on. So don't just ignore the trolls. See, that's the thing. Here's the thing about trolls. I've talked about this before. All right. Trolls are just like the Nancy Pelosi's who say that this guy, this John Connor, that evidently Conyers that touched a woman that it was one of his staffers or made sexual advances to her, and then used our tax money to give her hush money, and Nancy Pelosi calls him an icon, right? She's like a troll. It doesn't make any sense. They're disgusting. She'll get fired eventually. I'm going to go on after the show. I'll block the trolls, which I always do, so they'll either have to make up another profile, or they'll just go away. But either way, you have to understand in this world, this is reality, all right? Having an injury like this really brings you back, okay? There are people that make this world go forward, like little Lucas, right? Like my Uncle Freddie, like my mom, like other people that grow up being independent and teach others to be independent and empowered. Those are people that make the world go forward. People like the trolls that you see on Twitter, most of them don't have friends. Most of them probably couldn't get a date if they tried. Most of them are antisocial. Most of them are activists on the left side of the aisle. They do nothing to make the planet go forward, nothing to make this country better. They're full of vile and just disgust. But listen, I always look at people like that as the ones who allow me to use my skill set to do heroic things for. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, as I move forward, those people are the ones that are going to be stuck in the mud screaming for help, saying, how did we get to this place? Why are we forsaken while other people are taken by the Lord? Why are we the ones that are now suffering? You know, in communist nations, they say this all the time. These activists, these grotesque activists, when it comes down to it, and the Communist Party takes over, they're the first ones killed. And they're sitting there begging them for their lives, saying, we did all this work. And they're like, no, you disrupted. You did the work that we couldn't do because you were in the country, and we allowed you to do it so you would disrupt stuff, so that you would subvert it. And that's what you are. You're a pawn. I am not a pawn. And the people that watch this show and take part in the dialogue and that understand the Constitution, people that are independent, like my Uncle Freddie, like my mom, like little Lucas, these people are empowered. They will not be sitting there asking, please help me. I have gotten myself into this situation. Don't kill me. These are the people that will be pushing forward because they're empowered. But you wouldn't know anything about that now, trolls, would you? Because you have subscribed your life and handed it over to the powers that want you to be dependent. And you would rather believe what they tell you than what the truth is. Because you seek not the truth, you only seek validation. I validate me. I'm Jonathan Gillum. This is The Experts. Rico's asleep over there, and we'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. The truth has arrived. How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.